What do you call a hot dog on wheels? Fast food. Today, I'm going to recap a 2021 action thriller film called Copshop. A quick warning, there will be major spoilers ahead. The movie begins with the story of a man named Teddy Murretto, who is seen driving a stolen police car at high speed on a busy highway in Nevada. While driving, he looked very panicked and frightened, as if someone was chasing him. Unfortunately, when he made it through the deserted and sandy road, the car broke down in the middle of the road. So he had to continue walking near the Nevada border with a suitcase full of money and important documents stolen from his client. Elsewhere, still near the Nevada border, two police officers were seen talking. A young policewoman named Valerie Young gets a gun as a gift from her boss Coleman. She tried her new gun with shrewd hand movements like a cowboy. Later, the two policemen received information that there had been a commotion at a wedding not far from the Nevada casino. They both went straight to the scene. When they got there, the commotion was already chaotic. Several people were fighting in front of the building, and when getting out of her car, Valerie had to shoot a gun into the air as a warning to stop the commotion. Suddenly, she is attacked from behind by Teddy, a business consultant who previously fled in a police car, and his car broke down near the Nevada border. Valerie's partner finally pointed a gun at him, and Teddy raised his hand in surrender. Not long after, Valerie fires an electric gun to electrocute Teddy and managed to incapacitate him. Later, Valerie took him to the police station on charges of assault. When the arrest was taking place, a hitman named Bob Viddick was seen looking at Teddy from a distance. He was assigned to kill Teddy by one of Teddy's clients because he had stolen money and valuable documents. So the action of Teddy surrendering himself to the police station is an effort to protect himself from being chased by Bob, who will kill him. Arriving at the police station, Teddy was searched. The police found a lot of money that he was carrying in his suitcase and several confiscated documents as evidence. Valerie finds a gunshot wound to Teddy's stomach during a search and asks what happened. However, Teddy prefers to keep his mouth shut. Teddy was then thrown in a prison cell, located at the back of the police station. He was placed alone in a cell and did not join other inmates. Meanwhile, in another room, Coleman, Valerie's boss, received a report by telephone that his subordinates were suddenly hit by a very fast speeding car. The car was driven by a very drunk person. Finally, his men took the drunk man to the police station and detained him along with another drunk inmate in a prison cell. It turns out that the drunken man is Bob, the assassin who is after Teddy and is about to kill him. Bob deliberately gets himself drunk and bumps into the police to be put in the same prison as Teddy. When he sees Bob in his front cell, Teddy learns that Bob is a hitman who is after him. Then, he tries to offer him double what his client pays so he doesn't kill him. However, Bob, a professional assassin, certainly refuses the offer and will still carry out his mission to kill Teddy. Bob's cellmate, who is also a drunken prisoner, seems to have come to his senses. The inmate didn't seem to like to share a cell with other people and began to bully Bob by mocking him. The prisoner does not know that the person in the cell with him is a very dangerous assassin. Sure enough, at exactly noon, with a swift and deadly movement, Bob was able to knock his cellmate down until he vomited blood. Bob deliberately did this to create chaos and lure the police to his cell. Hearing the alarm in the police station ringing, Coleman, the boss at the police station, went straight in to check on the situation. He went in and checked Bob's cellmate, who was lying unconscious in his cell. However, Coleman, who was bending over to check the situation, was suddenly attacked by Bob from behind, and Bob managed to grab the gun that was tucked into his waist. Bob immediately pointed the gun at Teddy and fired successively as a target to finish him off. Luckily, Teddy managed to jump and hide under the bed. Bob's intention to kill Teddy was thwarted by Valerie, who suddenly pointed a gun at him. Valerie threatens to blow her gun straight into Bob's head if he attacks. Bob surrendered, and his hands were handcuffed to the iron bars in the cell. Then, Valerie helped Coleman and the inmate in the same cell with Bob to be taken to the healthcare room. Valerie rushed back into the cell and interrogated Bob and Teddy. At first, they both kept their mouths shut. However, after Valerie threatened to put Teddy in the same cell as Bob, Teddy was forced to speak up. From his confession, it is known that Teddy is an accomplished consultant, where many of his clients come from the rich, officials, and mafia. However, in doing his job, he commits a lot of fraud and takes away valuable assets and money belonging to his clients. Therefore, now he is being hunted by assassins a lot. Valerie with sharp eyes immediately looked at Bob, who was sitting on the floor with one hand in handcuffs. Then, Teddy continued that before he was in prison in his current place, he had turned himself into the police station in Nevada. However, there are a lot of corrupt cops, where he is taken to a desert in Nevada and will be killed by them, because the corrupt cops are after the stolen money that he took from his client. Luckily, when he was about to be executed, the FBI showed up and a shootout ensued between corrupt Nevada cops and the FBI. He manages to escape in a police car when the situation is critical. His escape happens at the beginning of the film. Valerie took the initiative to call her fellow policewoman, who served at the Nevada border detective Dina Shear, to prove Teddy's story. She asked Detective Dina Shear if there had been a shootout between the police and the FBI near the Nevada border as Teddy had told. However, Valerie does not know that the policewoman is one of the corrupt cops, working with other corrupt cops and is hunting for Teddy. So when Valerie asked about the shooting case, Detective Dina Shear lied. Next, Valerie asked one of her police colleagues, named Officer Kimball, to check Bob's profile in the police database. In addition to finding Bob's profile as a hitman, Officer Kimball found the profile of another assassin named Anthony appeared on the computer screen. Anthony is actually famous as a sadistic psychopath who has the heart to kill his targets without mercy. At the same time, a balloon delivery man was seen entering the police station. Unfortunately, Officer Kimball was a little late in realizing that the balloon delivery man standing in front of him was Anthony, the assassin whose profile was visible on the computer screen. Unexpectedly, Anthony immediately shot a gun in the policeman's face, and a second later, Officer Kimball was killed on the spot. He then opened fire on all the cops that showed up. Unfortunately, all the officers did not realize what had happened in the room when they entered. They were unprepared to face Anthony, because he moved like lightning as he grabbed a gun and fired at them. Not long after, Valerie entered the room and warned Anthony to drop his gun. Anthony immediately fired a bullet at Valerie without wanting to be spoken to. Valerie immediately jumped, entered the prison cell, and closed the door for cover. In the prison cell, Valerie is locked up with Teddy and Bob. The closed prison door turned out to be bulletproof, so Anthony could not break down the door, even though he gave a barrage of bullets that he fired at the door. Even though Valerie managed to get into the prison cell, her stomach was badly injured by the shot that was fired by Anthony earlier. She sat limply on the floor staring at Bob and Teddy. Shortly after hearing the sound of gunfire in the treatment room, Officer Hubbard, who was accompanying Coleman, suddenly fired a gun at him and the inmate. It turns out that Officer Hubbard is one of the corrupt cops working with Anthony. They get orders from the same mobster, one of Teddy's clients. The mafia wants Teddy dead for tricking him. So two assassins compete to kill Teddy, but they work for different clients. On the outside of the prison cell, Officer Hubbard is seen trying to deceive Valerie by saying that Anthony has left the police station. However, Valerie seemed suspicious and didn't believe the information that Officer Hubbard had just said. Finally, Officer Hubbard looks angry and shouts and leaves Valerie alone. Not running out of ideas, Anthony and Officer Hubbard also intend to break into the wall that is connected to the prison cell where Teddy is. They were seen reading the police station plan and started breaking into the wall. There was a bang from outside the cell where Officer Hubbard had managed to punch a hole in the wall. Meanwhile, in the prison cell, Teddy tries to persuade Valerie to release him with the guarantee that he will find the medicine she needs to treat her stomach. Having no other choice, Valerie finally gave him the key to the cell door and also a gun so that Teddy could attack Anthony before the wall was broken down. Bob said that Anthony had killed his wife and children when Teddy was about to leave the prison cell. Hearing this, Teddy was furious and immediately walked out of the cell. In another room, Officer Hubbard was seen trying to break into a wall and Anthony was sitting watching. Suddenly, two police officers have arrived and will be on duty that day. Without thinking, Anthony immediately killed off two of Officer Hubbard's colleagues. After shooting the two policemen, suddenly Teddy came from the other direction with his gun. Teddy continued to hunt down Anthony and Officer Hubbard, who had run to hide in another room. Hearing the gunfire coming from another room, Valerie realized that Teddy had lied to her. So she was forced to free Bob, who was still in the cell with her. Not long after that, Bob was immediately out of the room. It was dark inside the police station. Officer Hubbard was running and trying to hide from Teddy's pursuit. Unfortunately, he was caught by Bob. Bob could nimbly pick up the gun tucked into Officer Hubbard's waist and shoot the cop in the leg multiple times. Then Bob uses Officer Hubbard's body to lure Anthony into the room. Sure enough, it wasn't long before Anthony arrived and thought he had shot someone. Then Bob appeared from behind, and a fight broke out between the assassins. Seeing the age difference is far drift in, which Bob looks younger than Anthony, who is already old, so that Bob can easily attack Anthony with his bare hands because his gun is thrown. The fight was quite fierce with fast movements. Then Anthony grabbed a knife and intended to stab it in Bob's stomach. However, Bob, who seemed more skilled in hand-to-hand combat, recognized the attack, so with his strength, he was able to parry the knife attack and stab back into Anthony's chest. Just as Bob was about to finish off Anthony, suddenly, Teddy appeared with a gunshot at him. Bob immediately ran, leaving Anthony, who was dying. Then, Teddy stepped closer to Anthony and shot him hard. Not long after, Teddy started pouring liquid fuel to set the room on fire. Then, unsteadily, he walked into the kitchen. While in the kitchen, Valerie appears and says that Teddy won't be able to get away, because she's already contacted the FBI to arrest him. Hearing this, Teddy became emotional and threw a jerry can of gasoline at Valerie. Luckily, Valerie was able to jump and run to escape upstairs, and Teddy chased after her. Unfortunately, Valerie, who is good at using a gun, can shoot right at Teddy's chest. The man fell on the cupboard downstairs. However, when Valerie came down to see Teddy's condition, suddenly a policewoman partner with Valerie named Detective Dina Shear came and shot her. As is known, the detective is one of the corrupt cops who also targeted Teddy during a shootout with the FBI at the Nevada border earlier. The two policewomen faced each other, where Valerie was sitting limply against a table and Detective Dina Shear was standing right in front of her. With a long rifle pointed at Valerie, Detective Dina was ready to fire. Luckily, Bob shows up to save Valerie and shoots the female detective right away. Then Bob drew closer to Teddy, who was already limp and unable to move. Bob continues his mission to finish Teddy by shooting the poor man twice. Then he took Teddy's belongings that the police had previously confiscated and hurried off. At the same time, when he had left in a car, the FBI came to the police station. At the end of the film, Bob is seen driving a car leisurely on a deserted street near the Nevada desert. On the way, Bob immediately called his client and said that he had completed his mission by killing Teddy and getting the goods in the form of money and documents which Teddy had stolen. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy, hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice just to be sure. You should watch the full movie. Thank you very much for watching.